Hey everyone, how's it going? I'm here at ETH Denver. I'm here with Carlos. He's a friend of mine building a completely reimagined consumer crypto wallet. So this conversation is going to be all about wallets, reimagining it from the ground up, the future, the hurdles. If you're interested at all in this, you're going to want to listen to this conversation. All right, so Carlos, when it comes to wallets, the first thing I think about is what Vitalik said recently. I think someone was asking him the final frontiers of crypto, like where are the last big opportunities remaining? And one of them, he said, was wallets, building a wallet that can serve 1 billion people. I guess I just want to get your high-level thoughts on that. Like, what's preventing us from getting there right now? What does it need to look like?
Yeah, excited to talk to you about this. I'm really excited about wallets. Obviously, I'm very biased because I'm building one. But yeah, I think that Vitalik is right because none of the wallets we see today are actually suitable for your average consumer. If you've been in crypto for a while, maybe you've gotten used to it and maybe you think MetaMask is the best thing on earth and it works perfectly. But I think, I talk to a lot of consumers. My mom is actually really interested in crypto, which is a little bit unusual. But, trying to explain to her, you have to pay gas fees, you have to manage transactions, you have to keep a seed phrase. Some of these concepts that maybe we take for granted as crypto natives are really difficult for people who are not necessarily technically savvy to understand. And I also think you shouldn't need to, right? Because crypto is all about making transferring assets super easy, for example. I think this is a pretty exciting time as well because, EIP 4337 just landed and forgot who said it. Maybe it was Vitalik, but account abstraction is going to unlock the big opportunity for wallets. And I think a lot of the reason there is that you're able to, it's called account abstraction. You're able to abstract away a lot of stuff that's really difficult about interacting with crypto. And so for me, I think there are some very obvious things that we're going to see removed when we have a consumer wallet. One is gas fees. I think one of the biggest hurdles for using crypto is this idea of having to pay gas for every transaction. If you think about, going to the store and buying any grocery, think about if you had to tip every time you went to the store and bought a grocery. I guess nowadays, you do have to tip on a lot of stuff, but people are getting really fatigued by it. And it doesn't feel good when it's not something that, deserves a tip necessarily. I think the same is true with gas. How are you going to convince somebody to not use their Visa to pay for something and instead pay more to pay with gas? The exciting thing about account abstraction is that you can offer gas sponsoring. And so the user never has to even think about the gas. So, no more fiddling with gas limits, gas fees, whatever. No more thinking about, oh man, this is going to cost me $2 in gas. Things just work. That's really exciting. Another thing that's really exciting is we've seen a lot of seed phraseless kind of access points into crypto come really present. For some people, a seed phrase is a great thing because they feel really secure that they're the only people who have access to it. They can throw it in their safe, in their underground bunker, exactly, and never see it. But for most people, or for many people, a seed phrase is a point of vulnerability because it's something that maybe you write down on a piece of paper, you leave in the drawer of your desk. Custodying assets is what you're doing when you store a seed phrase. And I don't know, would you store $100,000 in cash in a drawer in your house?
No, definitely not.
Yeah, right. So I kind of understand why some people might want to do that. And, to some degree, I do that. But to some degree, I also don't want to do that. I want it to be either custodied by a really trusted party or, one of the really popular things that's happening right now is key sharding, where you use other credentials to unlock shards of your key, put them together, and then you can utilize them. Honestly, I trust kind of a one-time password to my email plus an authenticator app a lot more than I trust myself to keep a seed phrase safe. And it will vary from person to person. But I think for your kind of average retail investor, that's going to be a really big thing, is not having to think even about your seed phrase or your private key. I think the last thing that I want to touch on for consumer wallets is there has to be a selling point. So there has to be a reason why consumers would rather use the wallet than, again, what they're used to, Visa or American Express, or just paying directly from their bank. And it has to be pretty compelling. I think that there are some potential narratives that we'll see if they play out or not. One of them, of course, is yield. So crypto DeFi makes it really easy to earn yield. We've seen this implode in a pretty spectacular way.
Exactly.
Celsius, BlockFi, all of that stuff. But I think there's this narrative of, real yield coming to DeFi. There are a lot more yield opportunities. And we're also starting to see the kind of the good actors and the good protocols get ironed out a lot more than they were maybe last summer. Last summer was full of Ponzi farms, full of speculation and play. And honestly, that's fun. That's good. If you're if you're a DeFi degen, I'm a DeFi degen. But for your average consumer, they want to know that their money is very safe. And that's one kind of big advantage that you can have over banks is you can offer better yields. You can offer really good lending returns just because you're direct to consumer effectively. That's the whole value prop. So that's one big area where crypto could win. The other is transacting outside of business hours. It's kind of silly, right? That to send a wire, you can only send a wire between 9 and 5. Maybe you have an exception if you have a cool bank. You have to pay $25 for the wire. It takes, 6 hours if you're lucky, or an ACH takes several days. That could be a selling point for people, is how instant crypto is in transferring assets. Some other selling points that people might be really compelled by are, right now, I think folks don't realize that when you go to a store and you use your credit card, the store is effectively upmarking everything to offset the credit card fees, which can be 3 to 5%. It's really high. And that price, is not in your bill directly as a line item, but it's just baked into the price of the item. So you may have seen back in the day, or depends on where you live again, if you go to a gas station, they'll give you a discount.
Oh, for the
gas.
Yeah, exactly.
Because there's a credit card fee. So, I mean, that's kind of another big area is are there kickback opportunities for businesses who accept crypto and interface directly with users? And again, I think the interface has to be so seamless into how the consumer already behaves that it feels like, this is just a bonus. This is why wouldn't I do this? And I mean, not to show myself, but something that we're trying to do, and I think a couple other companies are doing, is direct spend debit cards directly from your DeFi wallet, which is a really cool idea because that means that, you can use Apple Pay just like you're used to, and you can spend directly from your DeFi account. Will there still be these fees that have already existed? Right now, yes, but as the industry matures and as a lot of these point of sales systems, they're just NFC readers. And so you can conceivably think, do I actually need Visa to process this debit card transaction? No, my phone has NFC. It's really easy to print an NFC card. And so in that case, why is there that middleman? And so it's kind of like training wheels. First you have to put on the debit card that integrates with Apple Pay and works today, but then tomorrow, you can convince these point of sale systems pretty easily to, accept a crypto NFC, right? And I'm really excited for that because I don't think people realize how much waste there is, financial waste, from a lot of these fees. Yeah.
So, just piggybacking off of that last point, the debit cards, is that hard to get access to, or is that just any open standard or platform that you can build on?
That's a good question. There's no open standard or platform. Huge startup opportunity for anyone listening to this. If you can figure it out, that's amazing. And the thing about it is that it's actually not technically difficult. The difficulty is all regulatory. So it's all, convincing people that you're acting in good faith. It's showing that it's being really open with regulators and showing that, you are doing good bookkeeping. It's showing your bank account balances, where the flow of money is. And then it's also finding a banking partner that trusts you, believes in you, and is willing to work on crypto related stuff, which is hard in this day and age. I mean, we saw what just kind of went down, but the industry is insanely resilient. We've been around for, over 10 years at this point. And so there will be a banking partner. There probably is right now. If you look hard enough, there's probably a banking partner that will work with you to create a direct spend debit card. And from there, your main challenge is really making sure that you're in compliance and that you're working as best as you can to do everything by the book. But somebody's going to make over $1 billion on that.
Yeah,
guaranteed.
Definitely. So still on this first idea of 1 billion users for a wallet, when I think of that, I think of not only us crypto users in the US, but also like in Latin America, where they already hold like BUSD and other stable coins, right?
Yeah.
I wonder, have you thought about that, looked into it, or are there like special requirements that are for them?
There are. To be perfectly honest, I haven't looked into it extensively, but there's a huge opportunity there. And the reason is, one of the companies that I work with actually as a on-ramp into DeFi, they focus only on Latin America. And they've seen amazing growth. And the reason is, if anyone's familiar with kind of like a lot of the macroeconomic situations in, I think Argentina is the best example, you'll know that buying USD is one of the most precious things to people in that region because their wealth gets destroyed so rapidly by inflation. And, of course, this is kind of problematic for the government. So they have, at currency exchanges, they have very hard limits on how much USD you can buy per month. And as I recall, it was really, really low. I think it was like, somewhere between $200 and $1,000.
Yeah.
And on top of that, there was a tax. And do you know what the tax was?
I don't know.
100%.
Wow, that's crazy.
So if you buy, I forget, maybe the cap was $200. So you can buy $100 worth of USD or $200 worth of USD, and you're paying $400 at present value in Argentinian pesos. That's crazy, man.
Yeah,
that is insane. And so when people learn that you can buy USDC, that it's fully backed one-to-one, that Circle is a very legit company, and you can do it instantaneously on your phone, with no tax, that's a very appealing prospect. And so this is, Argentina is kind of the most extreme example of this, but a lot of other countries in Latin America experience a ton of inflation. And so I know that crypto on-ramps have been experiencing tremendous growth to USDC, which is also pretty interesting in a way. Like, I'm kind of going on a tangent here, but in terms of the US position in the world is, if the US is really supportive of USDC, or, maybe they make their own, what is it called? Like central banking digital currency, right? CBDC, whatever it is. Actually, it could be really powerful geopolitically for our country, because that basically, if you can get everyone using this US currency, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's going to help with the dollar strength.
That's going to help a lot, right? So anyways, like, Latin America is really exciting. We at Rainmaker have gotten a decent amount of interest from Latin America, to be honest, mostly just to on-ramp USDC. Not even to use our core feature set. But yeah, it's like, I think if you're a crypto wallet and you're not considering like first class Spanish support for Latin America, just think about it.
Yeah, exactly.
Sure.
Exactly. So like we've kind of already hinted, you are building your wallet from scratch called Rainmaker.
Yeah.
So can you kind of talk me through what is your initial target user, and what were some other like types of users that you were thinking about, but ultimately ended on group A first?
Yeah. So here's the thing with building wallets. It's really tempting to build, like there's so many exciting opportunities, and I'll walk through some of them. But it's tempting to build everything for everyone. And, I think, one thing that I hear a lot, because I kind of lightly do some fundraising, is how are you going to become $1 billion company? How are you going to reach 1 billion users? And it's really tempting to share all of these ideas that I have. But I know realistically for now, I can only niche down and build an amazing product for one segment at a time. So I'll talk about that in a second. But let me first talk about some of the other things that I thought about.
Well, sounds good.
Yeah, one was playing off your last question, building for Latin America. So a wallet that has really first-class support just for on-ramping from pesos to USDC, and also sending remittance payments. So I'm not sure if you're familiar with the company Remitly. Yeah, but they allow kind of like cross-border money transfers. Sounds really easy, right? It's not. And so with crypto, it really is. And then the hard thing that you kind of end up with on the other side is spending that money, right? So if you send money, to somebody in the US from Argentina, super easy with crypto. And then the hard part becomes, how do I allow them to spend that money? So if somebody's hearing this and they're interested in building an amazing wallet for Latin America, I think that's going to be one of your main considerations. That was very, very tempting to me. Like, I have a lot of family in Mexico. We send money back and forth all the time. It's annoying. It's really expensive. And kind of like I said with payments, quite wasteful, right? Because a lot of money is going to these services that, could be going directly to the people who are trying to transfer money. Like, they created that value, and then it's getting lost in the shuffle, which is kind of a shame, right? It's a shame, and it doesn't really propel our economy the way that we want it to. Huge opportunity there. I think there's going to be a few winners in that space. So, if you hear some competition, I wouldn't shy away from it. And every country is a little bit different. And so I think there's also opportunities to build wallets, platforms that are targeted towards users in a specific country. Even if the primary use case is allowing outflow of money to other countries, Argentina is quite a bit different than Colombia, is quite a bit different than Mexico. And so anyone in those groups is going to have like a different way of thinking, a different way of approaching money and transfer. So don't shy away from it if you're thinking about building for Latin America. The other wallet that I was thinking about building is just for the US, insanely simple consumer wallet that abstracts away every crypto concept.
So would that kind of be like Rainbow or Argent?
Yeah, so it'd be an even more friendly Rainbow, Argent, or what are the other hot ones on the block right now? I think Cypher is kind of aiming to do this. I think it's a super cool opportunity. And it's hard to get right? Like, you need to do no seed phrases, no gas. You need to make it really really easy to understand how crypto works in a way. And I think the reason I shied away from this is, to be honest, it's really hard. It's really, really hard because you need to convince people. And when you need to convince people who are not in crypto, you need to offer them a very compelling reason. And I don't feel comfortable with the state of DeFi where it's at now, that I can offer the yields with the level of safety for consumers.
Definitely.
Yeah, it will come, and I'm 100% sure of it. That's part of why I'm building Rainmaker. But I think we're still a couple of years out from really consumer safe, friendly yields. And then there's also this kind of looming question of regulation And the more that you're trying to go after the general populace, the more that's going to actually affect you, because you're going to want really easy ways to do direct spending with debit cards. You're going to have to figure out your debit card solution, which means working with regulators a lot. Personally, like, I don't have those connections that you would be really helpful. I think if you're really hardcore grinder, you can probably figure it out with a lot of networking. But yeah, I didn't feel like I was in a good position to build that type of wallet either.
Got it.
Yeah.
So what did you land on for the viewers?
So okay, I landed on a DeFi specific wallet. And so our selling point is that we offer one-click access to DeFi without any of the technical complexity, while staying fully decentralized, which I'm really, really excited about. So here's the backstory. Last summer, 2 summers ago, actually, one of our mutual friends got me into DeFi. And I remember the day that he did it. He said, hey, I discovered this thing, DeFi. Him and I are long-term like traders, investors. We traded a lot of derivatives over the years, had a lot of fun. He's like, hey, I discovered this thing, DeFi, and I'm getting really into it. I thought, cool, let's chat. He's like, let me sit you down. It was almost like a multi-level marketing scheme. I was, oh God, like, what am I getting into? But I love this stuff. And so he sat me down for, I think, 1 or 2 hours and walked me through all this stuff that he was doing in DeFi. And I had no idea what was going on. So I had to say, hey, like, this is really interesting. I love, kind of playing these games, like speculating, doing a lot of like PvP investing. Let's take another 2 hours. So we took another 2 hours. At this point, I had done some research of my own. But in total, 4 or 5 hours of research. I got my MetaMask set up. I got my crypto steel set up. I put my, seed phrase in a vault somewhere. I had a ledger, or I still have a ledger that I used, and I was figuring out how to sign transactions and set gas, because I was really excited about this. So, my friend, he's a degen, total degen. So am I. But at the time, the only thing I was thinking was like, man, I must be really interested in this, because why would I jump through all these hoops? And so, over the next year or 2 years, we did a lot more DeFi investing. I got really comfortable with it. I started getting some friends into it, but then some folks who I knew would be really into it kind of just got deterred, because they're nervous about setting up seed phrases and custodying themselves. They couldn't really figure out how to fiddle with the gas to make it work, or they could, but they just got really frustrated. And then kind of getting into these positions is not trivial. It's, it can be anywhere between 4 and 8 transactions. If you think about approving, swapping tokens, staking, getting the staking tokens, moving them into a farm, collecting your rewards every day.
A lot of manual effort. I've tried it out like once or twice.
It's a manual effort. It's a lot of overhead. I think I had a spreadsheet that was 3,000 lines long, and I think 20 columns wide, right? And so I thought, man, I know people who would love this, but they would not love the bookkeeping that comes along with it, or the friction that goes into entering and exiting. So that's the premise of Rainmaker, is we make it completely frictionless to enter and exit any farm. So if you think about what are the popular protocols today, Stargate, Synapse, Hop, we integrate with all of them to offer you this one-click entry exit. And the best part is we do all the bookkeeping too. So we can tell you what your impermanent loss has been, what your total gain loss has been to date, what your cost basis is, what the TVL APR of the pool are. We can show you your transaction history, almost like Robinhood, right?
But that's amazing.
Very specifically for DeFi. So we're really excited. We're really niche down, to be honest with you. So it's people who are really into DeFi and DeFi degens, or as I like to call them, the degen's friend, somebody who's really interested,
exactly,
but doesn't want to kind of deal with the overhead. The best part is we make all this gasless. So kind of an expensive bet on our behalf, because we're sponsoring everybody's gas, but I think it 10x's the improvement, the experience. And so to me, I'm happy to burn that money to 10x the experience, and then we'll figure it out.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, so like you've mentioned, there's a lot of competition in the wallet space.
Tons. Yeah.
And so building the core features is important, and all those make a lot of sense. All those are going to be valuable. But the next piece of the puzzle is how to get that in front of people, right? Go to market, launch, all that stuff. I'm really curious because I'm always interested in go to market stuff. What are some kind of ideas or strategies that you've been thinking of to get Rainmaker in front of the people you want?
Dude, can I be honest with you? I have some commentary on building the wallet experience before we jump into the go-to-market.
Go ahead. Yes.
It pains me to say this, but I've been kind of disappointed with a lot of the new wallets. I'm not going to name names, but with a lot of the new wallets coming out, because a lot of what I see is this core feature set that everyone's just rebuilt over and over and over again with a different UI and not a ton of innovation. And I think it took us like probably about 3 or 4 weeks to build the core feature set. It's becoming pretty commoditized to build it.
Right.
And so I think what I want to see in a lot of new wallets is a niche, a competitive edge. And I know that a lot of people are like, I need to think big and I need to build a wallet that everyone can use. But I really want to encourage people to like think twice about that and think about finding your niche and building something really innovative for your niche. If you're thinking about building a wallet from scratch, you can reach out to me. I'm sure Kevin will share my socials, but I can help you build all those or figure out how to build all those core features in almost no time. And I'm very invested in it because I want niched wallets with really cool innovation. So that's my quick plug for anyone who's a builder out there, is like, think about niching down. I think there's a lot of cool opportunities that are being missed.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great point. And I know you have a product background, so that is something that other teams maybe don't know. That's a good point. A lot of them feel commoditized these days. So it does make sense that the right way to approach it is to like find an underserved niche and like really just innovate for them and please them per se.
Yeah. But anyways, going back to your question about go-to-market. Go-to-market is hard in crypto. It's also easy. It's both hard and easy. It's hard. It's easy because you know where everybody lives. Everyone, especially in DeFi, is in these Discord communities, is on crypto Twitter. And that's really how you're going to be able to get the attention of the market. It's hard because, well, one, especially in DeFi, everyone is a gigabrain. I'd say most people in DeFi, it feels like they're smarter than me. And then the other is that user acquisition has become direct to consumer user acquisition. So you pay people to try your platform. And you kind of have to live with that, right? You have to live with the fact that I think my product is so good that I'm just going to pay you to use it. And, you're going to take that money, but you're also going to realize how good my product is. So this isn't unique at all, but we are planning to do an airdrop. I think some of the things that are a little bit different about our airdrop are I've become very weary of airdrop farmers over the years. Yeah, especially on my early waitlist, the first waitlist that we had for Rainmaker. We saw, I think one day, somebody signed up with 15,000 emails, and it looked like it was happening manually. They didn't even write a script because they would come in, maybe it was over like 2 or 3 days, but they would come in slowly. They would come in like every minute or two. It wasn't every second, right? So people are really keen on mining out these projects. And I understand, right? Like I understand it's free money. You want to grab it however you can. For the projects though, it kind of sucks, right? Because the point of giving the money away is you want somebody to try your product and find it valuable, not to just farm it out and dip. So I think the thing that we are really excited about is that we're planning on leveraging zero knowledge proofs to verify identity without you actually having to reveal your identity. So basically, when you sign up, you can only create one account per human. And sure, if you want to get your mom and your dad to sign up and you want to farm their airdrops, go for it. Like, I'm not going to stop you. That's like, you can do it. You can mine out my my airdrop that way. That's fine. But you won't be able to create like a zillion throwaway emails and mine the airdrop. So I'm really excited about that because I actually haven't seen any other project do that type of anonymous identity verification. And I think it will really help us make our airdrop a lot more affordable, which means that we can actually airdrop people more money, which is better. So if you're a real user, we can airdrop you more money. So I'm really, really excited about that.
Would it be your own token or something else?
That's still TBD. I think that the two things that we're thinking about, I don't really want to prop up another shitcoin, if I'm being real with you. So the two things that we're thinking about are, I could just airdrop USDC or ETH. The other thing that I was looking at was actually minting a Rainmaker NFT, depending on what stage you're in. So for the first stage of users, we're planning on minting a founder's card, Rainmaker founder card NFT. And regardless of how the airdrop is structured for the founders, they'll get that NFT. And the NFT could be redeemable for USDC, but you have to burn the NFT if you want the airdrop at various times. But in the future, we're planning to give other types of rewards to those NFT holders.
I like that.
Yeah, so like boosted APRs for certain protocols, and we can partner with those protocols because they want to show off their protocol, and we want to reward our users. So it's a great collaboration. That's one thought. The other is future smaller airdrops over an extended period of time to reward that loyalty. Like if you are really having a great time on Rainmaker and you've stuck around and you've given feedback, I think one of the big things that we do is we invite everyone into our Discord community to leave feedback, and myself and my co-founder will literally have one-on-one chats if you want. Like we'll have a one-on-one chat with you and figure out what you want. And I'd say 90% of the time at this stage, we'll add that feature. And so I think you're actually doing us the favor there as the customer, because you're telling us what you want and we want to reward you. So
I like the founder's card idea because especially for people who like hold on to that because they see value in the future like benefits that you're going to give them, then that they're like long-term players in the ecosystem. That's a great way to tell who that is.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And like the other cool thing is that we can tie like some metadata behind it too. So I can understand, for a unique wallet address, how long they've kind of been participating in Rainmaker and really reward those people who are long-term investors. And we think we can provide them a ton of value. So it's a win-win. But that's kind of our biggest go-to-market play right now. Our second is, I've been meeting these kind of leaders of different DeFi communities and trying to understand from them what value we can bring to their community so that we can figure out if there's a good partnership and like have people from the community try Rainmaker.
Yeah, actually, that's really smart. I was just about to ask you about like approaching the leaders.
Yeah.
Right? Because if you can wow them and convince them to be an advocate, then that could be a great way to get all their followers per se to download and use it just like they are.
Exactly. And I think the thing that I've figured out is that there are two types of communities. One are these kind of like scammy communities where there's like a lot of pumping and dumping. And then the other are kind of the true believers. And I think you can suss out the communities by figuring out, okay, does the leader just want to be paid out to shill your product and push it on their users at all costs? Or do they want to work with you and figure out, okay, we need these features. Like, this is how you can provide us value. This is how you can make our lives easier, better, and kind of like help us streamline our investing opportunities. That's the type of community I want to go after because they care about their community. They actually care. And I'm not trying to scam anybody. I want to build stuff that's super useful. So that it's exciting to have learned that because now I can kind of leverage it.
Yeah, and I can see like some DeFi leaders on Twitter, for example, as they have a lot of followers and they share their DeFi farms that they're in occasionally.
Yeah.
Right? Like if they really love Rainmaker and you build it out for them, they could just like post a screenshot and be like, this is the farms that I'm in this week.
Exactly.
Right. And then everyone sees it, and some people are bound to copy and follow them.
Exactly. And this is kind of where my brain goes crazy, because there's so many exciting things that we can do with this and like actually potentially build on platform, that I don't want to get ahead of myself. I have to like control myself. I know a lot of what I do is I look towards, I'm part of several DeFi communities, and we have some leaders on those communities. They share a lot of good alpha, and they kind of show us the way. A lot of the times, I would say probably 95% of the contribution to the community is driven by 5% of the people. And that's pretty normal, actually. Like, I'm not trying to shade anybody. That's a normal ratio for communities. There are community leaders and a lot of people who kind of follow along. There are exciting ways to make that a lot more streamlined if you can use a platform like Rainmaker. So anyways, I'm very, very excited about that. I know I personally do a lot of copy trading and a lot of kind of light like DeFi analysis to see what other wallets are doing.
Yeah, that is very exciting to see how that plays out. I kind of want to shift gears a little bit and just ask you in general, you're a builder in this space, right? And it is a bear market now. It has been for at least a year. What's your experience like? Just, I guess, building in the space in general, and then if you have any feeling or thoughts about building during the bear market. Just, you're a builder.
Yeah.
So wanted to ask your perspective.
You know what's funny, Kevin, is I actually didn't start building Rainmaker until the bear market, because honestly, I was scared off in the bull market. The bull market is so competitive for builders. And it's hard to stay focused too, because you hear so much hype about,
So much FOMO. It's
so much to say, so much hype. Everyone's doing everything. And you think to yourself, I just can't compete, right? It leads to a lot of self-doubt. Where in the bear market, there's a lot less of that. And so there's a lot less noise, especially on crypto Twitter, which I kind of have to like come in and out of depending on what stage I'm in. But I actually think that building in the bear market is a lot more sustainable, I think, like sustainable and easier in a way. That's specifically about building, though. In terms of user acquisition, definitely the landscape looks a lot different. The cons are, it's way harder to make your numbers look really appealing if you're trying to build a venture scale business. So I think a lot of VCs want to see this hyper growth trajectory. They want to see you onboarding 10,000, 100,000 users within a couple of months, and your platform TVL should be at least 100 million within your third month. That's pretty hard during the bear market for sure, because there's a lot less capital floating around. And so, I mean, the silver lining with this, though, is that the capital that we see in the bull market is much more flighty in a way.
Definitely.
Yeah. So the people who are still here in the bear market, the users who are still here, the DeFi degens who are still here, are just much more resilient people, and they care a lot more about DeFi, right? Rather than, everyone in DeFi is here to make a buck, for sure. Don't get me wrong. That's the whole point of finance, right? It's like trading is all about making money, but it's not people who just think that they can make money out of thin air doing nothing, right? It's people who actually think that they have alpha, think that they have an edge, want to compete to make their money. And so that's kind of nice, right? Because you get a much stronger signal from a much more dedicated audience. And this audience like really knows what they need to succeed, because they have been hardened by their years of experience. So that's awesome, because the feedback that you get from consumers is just way, way better. It's not just like, when token.
Yeah, exactly.
What's the highest APR? And it's like, okay, sure. Like, I've been that guy for sure. But yeah. And I think the other thing is, personally, I'm not the best marketer, right? Like I don't have that skill set of kind of putting myself out there on Twitter, getting 1 million followers, saying a lot of like exciting things, making tons of content. That's just not my skill set. And in the bull market, there are a lot more people with that skill set. And so it can overpower.
That's true. That's true.
Right. And in the bear market, the everything is lower. The volume is lower. And so actually it's a lot easier for me to get kind of the word out about Rainmaker, for example, without having to compete as much. So it's been great, I think, actually.
I want to ask your take on like fundraising.
Yeah.
Talking to VCs during the bear market. And I feel like it may be a better bear market to do that than last time. Because I tried raising, and of course my product was just bad. It was no product market fit, by the way. But a lot of VCs then were still like unsure if we're going to like ever return, essentially. Yeah. So can you kind of share your perspectives on how VCs' mindsets are potentially different this time around?
Sure, yeah. Like I can share about their mindsets. I can also share kind of like the real talk of what's going on. So the real talk of what's going on is that, you can expect I'm raising seed pretty soon. So I raised my pre-seed. We're very comfortable with the money that we raised there. So even if we had to stop there for a while, we'd be happy. But we're thinking about raising seed, and seed rounds, you can expect them to be at about 1/4 of what they were maybe this time last year.
Right.
So just kind of for anyone who's out there raising, roughly that's what I've seen, right? Maybe it's a little better than that. Maybe it's about half. But the thing that has kind of shifted with VCs is I think that they've seen the resilience in this market, right? They've seen that, remember back in the ICO days, that was kind of the first time that crypto was front and center. Sure, like Bitcoin existed, Coinbase existed before then, but that's really when it kind of gained some public popularity. And for many investors, VCs are very, invest in very broad things generally, right? Because they need to be looking at tech sector in general. And then, further along in their careers, they might niche down to blockchain or AI or whatever. But for a lot of people, that was their first exposure to crypto. And so they understandably weren't sure, is this just a hype cycle? Is this just some random garbage thing that's popping up that, has no use cases? And I think now, one, what we've seen is we've seen some pretty solid use cases come along. And two, they've seen that the community sticks around. So the crypto community is very, very strong in a way. And, even Gary can't stop the crypto community. And this sends a really strong signal to VCs. And so that's pretty helpful in terms of why the fundraising hasn't completely collapsed. I think the other thing that's helpful is, at least as of right now, there are still a lot of funds that are holding on to money that they want to slowly deploy that they raised back in the last bull run. So they raised a ton of money, and sure, it's a bear market. Things have quieted down, but they still have an obligation to their LPs to invest the money in crypto companies the way that they stated, right?